Hey, I'm Michael Gould. I'm a professor of music at the University of Michigan, drummer, artist. It's a pleasure to be here at the University of Johannesburg and as a collective, the Zebra Collective, 2025 Artists in Residence.
Hi, my name is Masimba Hwati. I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and we are excited to be here in Johannesburg. So the partnership with UJ came in the form of an open call for the 2025 Artists in Residency program. And we were excited to come to Southern Africa. I'm from Zimbabwe. And our theme, Nyami Nyami, is centered more in Zimbabwe, on the northern part of Zimbabwe. So this is very close to home. This is an opportunity for us to ground the idea in this geopolitical setting. After this performance here in Johannesburg, we go to Harare to perform. So Johannesburg was a nice stopover and a place to start the conversation with our idea.
Great, yeah, so for us, we don't live in the same area. So Masimba is currently living in Vienna, and I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so we're pretty far apart. And so what we do is, for the past 5 years, we've had many discussions, and this is our fourth iteration of Nyami Nyami. But what we like to do is we converge on a platform on the internet called Notion. And so for us, it's a kind of a living archive in which we keep track of all of our work, all of our drawings, photographs, videos, and we can comment asynchronously on our work. So we don't have to be in the same time zone to be like working together. So I'll throw out an idea or something that we're working on, and Masimba's 6 hours ahead of me, so he can comment on it. And then so we're constantly working in cycles, and then just like everybody post-pandemic, we're on Zoom quite often to work together. And since we've known each other a long time and we've developed kind of artistic syntax and dialogue, and like our aesthetic is together, so it's really easy to kind of keep track on the platform. So 11 years ago, I worked with Al Gore's chief science officer. So Al Gore was the vice president of the United States, and he was a huge advocate for developing awareness about climate change. His chief science officer was Henry Pollack, who is a colleague of mine at the university. He's now retired. And he wrote a book called A World Without Ice. And it focuses both on the Arctic and the Antarctic. And he's been taking photographs and doing research there for the last 40 years. And so as a result of talking to him about what's happening in both poles, I had an opportunity to go to Antarctica and look for myself at what's going on and study the data that's related to what's happening over the past 100 years, and using that data to influence the music that we create. So I'm a percussionist, a musician, composer, and so my colleague, Steve Rush, who's also a composer and pianist, we developed a kind of language that translates climate data into musical landscape, but also I created these big chunks of ice that melt onto amplified drums, and we have a film. And as a result of using my own instrument as a visual representation of things, it started like a design process and idea of using parts and pieces of instruments like drum heads and cymbals and drums as like artistic visual language. And the great thing is that Masimba also uses that exact same language before we even knew each other, by using old instruments and things in the form of things that you can see behind us. And so it was this perfect syntax, trying to make people aware of what's going on the planet, but trying to translate science into a language that's open for everybody to interpret. And it's not, for example, in the United States, Republican or Democrat, where it's very divisive right now. It's just in the middle where you create your own narrative.
Right. So to add to what Michael is saying, one thing that connects our work is sound. So we use sound in the same way that a painter can use paint or a brush. But the themes of climate change and human impact, these are urgent themes. These are themes that we all should be talking about today, because unfortunately we are at a point in our history where we are beginning to see clearly the impact of our own actions on the environment. And this is just one of the projects that we do. So my work has a background of indigenous philosophies and indigenous ways of looking at some of these problems. So Nyami Nyami falls into that place of indigenous thinking and how we can engage indigenous thinking as we deal with problems of climate change. So Nyami Nyami to us becomes a symbol of nature's resistance to what we could call colonial or anthropocentric activity that disrupts the flow of nature. So coming with that indigenous knowledge background and then the sound, we come together and we explore this idea of Nyami Nyami.
Okay.
So Nyami Nyami is the river god for the Tonga people who live along the Zambezi in the northern part of Zimbabwe. So in 1955, the colonial government in Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia, decided to construct a dam that cuts across the Zambezi. And this dam, of course, as we may all know, has a serious ecological impact, including the displacement of people. 53,000 people were displaced. 86 people died during the construction, and many other things that may not be recorded correctly. So Nyami Nyami, it is said in the legend that the reason why the dam took too long to build was that Nyami Nyami was resisting the construction. And so we come in as artists thinking poetically of Nyami Nyami as that force and that symbol that is resisting this disruptive imposition, a human imposition on nature. So yeah, so all our performances and our ideas are built on that idea of how does nature contend or how does nature resist some of these impositions.
And we're a collection of all of our experiences. And so all of our artistic output is like built upon itself, and it represents itself here at this moment in time. And so, there's many elements within this piece that represent different parts of the kind of the lure of Nyami Nyami. And so there's like, whether it's stargazing or spirit protectors or nature itself, those things are all kind of represented here, along with us playing in real time and trying to transcend our own instruments, but also try to bring people into a different space where they can transcend themselves and develop their own ideas about what's going on.
Yeah, just to add on to that, we also come from very personal departure points in our work. Most of the objects that you see on the sculptures and the signs and the motifs on the floor, even on the drum heads, are all very personal stuff that we kind of infuse into the work. So the work is not just broadly talking about big themes. It's also coming from a very personal and intimate place, and then it branches out.
For me, I've been a professor for the last 27 years. And so for University of Johannesburg, what I hope is that, students can at least see the archive of what we've done and ask questions, question themselves. For me, it's how one positions themselves on the planet and how you look at others. And when you can see how if you can look at others in a new light and you can see yourself in a different kind of light, I think it's really important for students to kind of understand that the world is vast. And like when we're guests here, and it's great, and we hope that they can come into our experience as a guest and like grab something for themselves about what, maybe expand their vision of what art making might be. So I think that's one thing that's really, for us, it's really nice to be here. For the potential of interfacing with other faculty and staff and students.
Right. And also our hope is that we get to continue to ask or generate questions, important questions. We are artists, we are not politicians, we are not environmentalists, and I think our job is to poetically present questions to the public, and also to encourage each other and the people to stay with the trouble. It's not about quickly let's resolve this thing, because if you talk about the issue of the Kariba Dam, it's a big problem, but it's also the place where Zambia and Zimbabwe get most of their electricity. So we are saying let's look at the trouble, let's engage the issue, and let's talk. So I think that's our job as artists.
And then the other thing that's great is that when we're sitting in the same physical space together, and we set this up one more time, and we're having a coffee together or whatever, we're really getting valuable time together to talk about what we want to do in the future, and like what's the meaning of what we're doing as a collective, as the Zebra Collective. So the time here as artists in residence is really important because it gives us the opportunity, geographically speaking, to be in the same space to talk about what our future might be.